I really enjoyed that film last night. It was really good.
Well, I'm glad you were there.
That's kind of your baby, right? You had a hand right from the writing and everything.
Well, I found the material.
Yeah.
I started directing about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I found a short
Right.
by O. Henry that I made into
Henry
a little.
was great.
He's a great writer, and had some good fortune with it, and decided that I should keep pursuing this. And through that short film, which is called By Courier,
Yeah.
I found this material.
I know. It's a great story to tell, and I'm really happy to welcome you to the program. And welcome very much to Conversation. A great pleasure to welcome to the program Peter Riegert. And he's an actor, he's a writer, he's done some production, he's done he'll be known to most in the audience as a stalwart actor who's been part of the profession in a very leading-edge kind of way. And he's now the director, and I had up originally creator. He's the one who babied along and brought an independently produced film called King of the Corner, which is showing here in New York City and other places. And it's a great pleasure to welcome you, Peter. Welcome very, very much to Conversation, man.
My pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Thanks for having me here.
I had the great good pleasure watching the film last night. It's really good, if I may say so. That's my taste. Really funny if I do. And I wonder, could you share maybe your own background, where you were born and raised, and then let's get into talking about some of your career and the industry and independent film and all of these kind of questions. But your own background, where you were born and raised, that sort of thing.
I was born in the Bronx in 1947. Lived there until about, I guess, the end of 54. Then my folks moved up to a town in Westchester called Ardsley. I mean, we lived in Hartsdale, but I was part of the Ardsley school system, and all my friends were from Ardsley.
Right.
Then I graduated in 64, went to the University of Buffalo, was an English major there. Came to New York, taught for a while, did some social work for the University Settlement House on the Lower East Side.
You took your degree in English and in social work as well? Or
no, I was an English major. The social work, I wasn't formally a social worker. But that's the kind of work I did for some summers and then a couple of years after I finished teaching.
A lot of good people with good soul do social work, don't they?
Well, it's a very complicated issue. You have to... Meaning well and doing well are two very different things. But you are involved in life and death situations. People's lives are directly affected by the help you can give them. So being competent about being helpful is more important than just meaning well. So it's a richly complicated story.
I think it is. And you were involved in that from the heart, as it were? Or was it just an opportunity that happened to present itself?
Combination.
Yeah, okay.
I think
it did involve organizing people in a way that might help in terms of the film.
It did help. Actually, the social work experience was crucial to me, learning how to be a director, to be honest with you. Well, you're dealing with a wide variety of people and trying to include them into a group that can have an experience either in a summer camp or in an after-school program or a learning to read program or, feeding the elderly, all kinds of things, but they have to be organized. So that kind
collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I learned that, and it was at the University Settlement House on the Lower East Side. I had a mentor named Ernie Greisman who really taught me about the dynamics of groups, so that was, it just was extremely useful eventually. And then, of course, dealing with people helped me as an actor.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't know I was going to be an actor.
You did not know you were going to be. You didn't want to be. Did you want to write? Did you take your hand at writing? You said you studied literature. You read others.
Yeah.
Did you write some yourself?
A little bit.
Poetry, prose.
No, I tried to write dramatic material, but I didn't really discipline myself. I was kind of. It reminds me of this, what's that line in The Graduate when Dustin Hoffman says, I'm a little worried about my future? That was kind of me in 1968.
You and a whole bunch of other people,
a lot of people,
Right,
so I kind of was meandering around in my head more than I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And after college, I taught in Ocean Hill, Brownsville for about a year and a half and realized that I really wasn't going to be a good teacher. I wasn't that interested in it. It was just something to do.
Social work you're interested in, teaching you weren't?
It wasn't so much that. It was dealing with the...
dysfunction?
No, it was dealing with the, the draft and protesting the war. And
that's what
I wanted to do something...
What year are we talking about when you
68.
68. That was a real crucial time. Draft was there, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I wanted to do something more than just be against the war. I wanted to be for something.
Were you early on against the war, can you remember?
Yeah, pretty much.
65, 66?
Yeah, well, I was 17 at that time, 18.
Yeah.
And, I have to be honest, wasn't the imagination of a 17-year-old, but I thought, from what I was learning about history, that this was a mistake.
Yeah,
so.
Pretty early on, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Then it got to, that was such an event. It just tore this country apart in the end, didn't it?
It did. Well, history can have a way of doing that.
Yeah.
And of course, we remember it pretty well. And now I think we're going through a similar situation.
You do, with the Iraq thing?
Yeah, well, just how we're going to deal with these questions of people living together.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, and it's going to take a lot longer than our lives to figure it out, I think.
Okay. Well, take a longer view might be a good idea. When did you first pick up? Because you're well known, obviously, for acting. And so when did you get the inclination that you might be somebody who could go into acting and that sort of thing?
You mean to start as an actor originally?
Yeah, maybe. How'd you get into the acting into film and theater and that
Well, I guess it was, I don't know if it was an epiphany, but I did wake up on January 1st of 1971 to the idea that this was something I should do. So I called some friends who were actors, asked them how to go about it, and just started.
Oh, that's a very interesting thing. Was there something about January 1 of 1972
that
brought this epiphany?
A beginning.
It just happened out of the blue?
Yeah, I don't know why it was that day as opposed to another.
You hadn't read Miller or something? Or
No. I hadn't done anything other than the night before I remember serving drinks at the old downstairs of the upstairs, that nightclub on 56th Street.
Yeah.
So I think I collected $70 in tips, and I'm sure I had too much to drink. And my memory is that I ended up back at my folks' house, but I lived down in the village, or used to live down in the village, so I don't know why I was there.
But you woke up with the idea it might be good to become an actor.
Wasn't even that. It was literally, I'm going to be an actor.
Really?
It was as clear as a sign on a door telling you which way to go.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
It's sort of out of the blue. You hadn't been in line that way? You hadn't done any little theater?
Well, I did a play in high school, or a couple of plays in high school, playing college.
Like that?
Yeah, but I never thought about it as a profession. Maybe I fantasized about it, like most kids do, I guess. You know, they see movies and television.
That, or maybe a rock and roll star like
I don't
Mick
even
Jagger?
know. I don't think I flirted with that idea.
Abby Hoffman? Do you know Abby?
I didn't know Abby Hoffman.
Okay. All right. Anyway,
but I, was certainly living in the village at that time. But
he was funny.
He was very
great
funny.
Sense of humor.
Great sense
I
of
really
humor.
liked Abby. Oh yeah, he was really a good guy.
He was pretty impressive.
Remember the Fugs?
The Fugs?
Ed Saunders?
I don't know. I just remember being fascinated by them. Thule Kupferberg and Ed Saunders.
Thule's cooking it out. He's still good. Yeah. Anyway,
no, that was part of my time.
Yeah, there was all these things going on. But so you got this epiphany or this idea to become actor and everything. And where did it take? How did you get into it?
I called some friends and asked them what the process was. I knew it had something to do with auditioning, so they told me where to, what newspapers to buy. Backstage, things like that. And then they told me about pictures and resumes. I had no idea what that was. So they explained what a picture was. It's like a headshot.
8 by 10.
Right?
Yeah.
And then a resume, and I said, of what? They said, of your acting. I said, well, I haven't done any acting. I mean, in college. They said, well, just make stuff up and put it on the paper. And I said, well, I don't want to make anything up. They said, oh, everybody makes stuff up. So I figured, well, I'll be different. And I just put my name.
Enhance reality a little.
Well,
that's what acting's about.
That's what they say. But I thought I could provoke a conversation if I brought a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, that would.
So I had my name at the top, with a high school play and a college play, all white down to the bottom, and a couple of jobs that I had. And it was blank. It was completely blank. So they would, when I would audition, people would go,
Tabula rasa.
There's nothing here.
Yeah,
I said,
right.
Well,
You're ready-made for the biz.
Well, I thought if I could engage them in a conversation, I was so naive. I thought if I could get them to engage me in a conversation, they'd see how charming I was, and they'd give me a job.
Well, it just put you in good stead.
Yeah, well, it doesn't always work.
So how did it work at first?
Well, it took
your first gig, as it
sure.
were?
I did a play at a theater on 18th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. It was called the Omni Theater, and it was a little old warehouse, seated maybe 40 people.
Yeah.
It was a play by a writer named John Wolfson. The play was called A Midsummer Night's Trip, which was a perfect end of the 60s, early 70s play. I think I played the Puck character in the form of a kid who spikes the family cheese at an evening wine. I don't know. It's insane.
Yeah.
But that. It took about 6 weeks, and I was off and running.
You did it. You did it. And that was a stage thing.
That was a play.
A play.
And then I got involved with an improvisational company called War Babies.
Okay.
That I spent about, the group was together about 10 years. We started in '72 at a little club on West 74th Street in Amsterdam called the Focus Coffee House. And I had a place to work in front of an audience every week for almost 8 years.
And that was what now? What were you doing?
The group was called War Babies.
It was an
improvisational company.
Or,
well, pretty much, yeah. It would be a 2-hour show.
2-hour show with a troupe? Or
with a group. There were about 10 of us in the group, and it was big enough so that if I got a job in a play or a movie or television, I can go and earn a living. But this just kept me in front of an audience for almost 8 years.
That's great training. For 8 years? That's a long time.
I didn't do the group for 8 years, but I mean, over the course of 8 years, I could leave and do other things and always come back and be with this group and perform.
Good group of people?
Excellent.
Yeah,
they're all friends with all of them.
Doing it, and you like spontaneous improv? You like improv?
Well, I liked it because it gave me a vocabulary for learning how to be an actor and talking amongst fellow actors and directors. But the show would be about 2 hours. There'd be maybe a 15-minute break. And outside of about 15 minutes of set material, the rest of it was all invented and taken off of audience suggestions.
Fun!
A lot of fun. I really learned how to listen and think on my feet. So
I got a daughter who's in theater, you know. She went to Yale and that, but she and 4 gals put together a thing, and it was all sleeveless theater, and they tried to make it as improv as they could.
That's what we did.
They were just riffing.
Yeah,
they were riffing off
That's
things.
right.
And you know, like I guess maybe that's the appeal of some of the rapping and hip hop and stuff. They're trying to come up with things.
I guess
in
a way.
Getting back to imitate life, maybe? I don't know.
I think it's we based our improvs off of a book that was written by a woman named Viola Spolin. The book was called Theater Games for Children, I think. And it gave us a format, and then it evolved and developed based on our own taste. And it was, with all modesty, I thought it was one of the better improv groups that I'd ever seen.
Good for you. I didn't know, but I want to know. Did you get anything on tape? Did you get anything on tape?
Yeah, I think some of the people back in California have some. Yeah, I think so.
Video? Well, that'd be good to have, wouldn't it?
It's somewhere out there.
Isn't it great we can keep these things now?
Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not so great.
So you were improving and that kind of thing, and you like comedy. You like satire, comedy.
I like everything.
Yeah.
Anything that's good, I don't care, really.
Right.
It's just that this tended to be more comedic than dramatic.
And that was like a coffee house thing, a saloon, or what was it?
Yeah, coffee house.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah. They used to have coffee houses that were great and everything.
Yeah.
Poetry's doing well in this country now.
I guess.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, an old poet friend. He said he's going to open at the New York Rican down on the Tompkins Square. I went there. I expected 6 or 7 people talking about Dickinson or something, Emily Dickinson. And 300 people were there. They were crawling on the walls and everything, and they got these slams that they do where they judge them in the Olympics. And then they said also hip-hop. There's an influence of hip-hop, which is huge culturally all over the world now, and apparently there's some connection to the poetry and hip-hop and these socially conscious things that they do at these slams.
Well, so each generation has their, they gather as they want to gather, and if that's what's happening to this generation, that's great.
It's very big. I got a friend who worked at William Morris, and she said to me one time, she said, this is a level, this is music, and he said, this is jazz, easy listening, rock and roll, it's classical and so forth, and she said, this is hip-hop all over the world.
Huge.
Apparently it's huge all over the world. There must be something there. A lot of people don't like it and that kind of thing, but it's a cultural force that's very big among the youth and that.
Well, like I was saying before, I mean, each generation gets to express its outrage the way it wants to.
That's right.
When I was younger, it was, Elvis Presley and Beatles and Stones.
Wouldn't let him see his hips when he did that Sullivan Show. But you're a poet. You think of yourself as a poet or a writer? Were you writing your own stuff, or you were riffing?
No, we would literally improvise the events based off of the suggestions.
From the audience?
All from the audience, and it was structured around, let's say, as an example, we might ask for a first line and a last line of a scene, and essentially simple things like who the people are, where they are, and some activity, what they're doing. And based on that, we can go for 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
And you just go and you come up with that. That's very creative. That's
well, you really,
a creative exercise.
It's extremely creative, but it really forces you to listen. The temptation is to try and be funny. But it really forces you to hear what your partner in the scene is doing. And it is a jazz
Yeah, it's like
metaphor, I guess.
Almost.
Sure.
Yeah, it was good. And it was good training. And then you got into film. When did you first get into the idea of film, other than theater?
Well, I directed a short film in college. I had been taking a movie course, and the final exam was to make a short film. I used a Bolex camera as a 16 millimeter.
Steenbeck?
Yeah, we cut it a Steenbeck, I think, and if I remember correctly. And you know, those were the days when you could literally hold the film in your hand, and the metaphors would be like that.
It wasn't all numbers on a
no Avid machines or anything.
No Avid. Yeah.
So, but I put that aside for some reason. I just never followed up on it. Again, like I said, I was pretty much a dreamer through school.
Yeah.
Or certainly when I got out of school. And then once I started acting in '71, the first movie I did was Animal House, which was a spoiling experience.
Yeah, I bet that was something else, yeah.
Well, it was a huge success, and I was used to working in New York City theater.
How did you come to have that role? Do you remember the process?
Yeah.
Was there audition? Was it a contact? How did you
audition.
make that break in? Because that's breaking in at a very high level as far as film is concerned.
Well,
that's
I had been
classic in many people's minds.
Yes, it is. I was in California. I had just done 8 months of a play in New York City called Sexual Perversity in Chicago.
That was a play running daily?
In New York City, no, down the Cherry Lane Theater in Greenwich Village. It was a new writer no one had ever heard of named David Mamet. So he was a new kid in town.
And you hung out with those people?
Well, that's where we
hung out in intellectual,
well, I don't know if David would go that far, but...
no, but I would.
I mean,
I would.
Yeah. No, I would. You know, you hung with the writers and directors and actors and any producers. That was my group. You know.
That was your group. Yeah. Okay.
So I was in the play for 8 months. Finished in January of '77 and went west with a girlfriend and was out there auditioning. And through the course of about 4 months, 6 months, something like that, I worked a little bit with that improv group. Had already gone out west, so I could still work with them.
Some of the guys were out there.
Yeah, they just went out. When I started working on the play, the Sexual Perversity in Chicago, they went out to California. So when I was done with the play and went out west, they were there. So I had a place to work. Yeah. And I did a couple of episodes of MASH, and then I was auditioning for movies, and I guess there were about 3 or 4 in a row where it was between me and somebody else, which is, I didn't get those, but I kind of felt, well, maybe this is indicating I'm kind of getting close. And then this Animal House thing showed up.
And
it was an audition.
It was a big break. You got an audition and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you got into that, and so you got, and then you're well into it. You're off and running then.
Well, you are. I mean, an actor's life or anybody in show business goes through so many phases and changes, and you just have to hang around as long as possible and get lucky, to be honest with you.
That's probably something that really counts a lot for all phases of human activity.
Probably.
Luck really figures a lot, but there's also a lot of
talent. Serendipity, fortuitous,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but you're also hanging out with good people, and you've got a good social...
Yeah, but there's so many people competing for the jobs. It's pretty amazing that... I mean, when I look back, it's hard to imagine. It's 35 years now.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
I know. Yeah, but people are repeating. People seem to be very interested in acting as a profession. A lot of people. There's more people interested in that than there seem to be places.
Oh, way too many people for the jobs available.
And why is it that youth, let's say, coming up, is so interested in the profession of acting? I mean, there's the glitz and the star and that kind of.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is different.
It's an art form, and I mean, it's a serious.
But it's a job.
Okay.
It's a job first, and here's what's different.
All right, talk to us.
The amount of money that you can make is reported in the newspapers. Yeah. When I was starting out as an actor, I didn't know what anybody made.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a vague idea, but certainly wasn't printed in the paper what people's salaries were. And I think that any kid watching all this hoopla and hears that somebody is making millions of dollars for a couple of months of work, it's going to get their attention.
Pretty good idea.
So, not bad. I would think of it that way.
Better than being a Yankee star.
Well...
But along that line.
But kids, I think kids fantasize about sports as well.
Yeah.
Any place where there's public awareness and notoriety, it is glamorous and glitzy and all that in terms of getting people's attention. It's just that now, I think it's less about the ability to act than it is about trying to get into the business. Apropos of these new reality shows.
Yeah, I don't know what they're about. I don't.
Well, what they're about is they're audition tapes for people to get into show business.
Yeah, right.
You win one of those shows, you have a better chance than an actor just working his way or her way up through the theater.
But there's the glitz of fame and fortune, and there's kinds of things. Some of those values are a little bit threadbare when you get down to it.
Yeah, but that never stopped anybody.
Well, okay, maybe so. But I mean, it's like, and then there's a business, and then there's the art. You know, and art. I mean, you got poets. Poet doesn't need much. He can use a piece of paper and a pencil. Mr. Ginsberg could write on it, or a painter even. A painter could do it. Van Gogh could have some canvas and that. But when you get into the business of show business, I mean, of film, and I guess theater may be a little bit different. It's a little
No, it's all the same.
But it's there, and it becomes a business necessarily, or so, and so that the business aspect of that, a poet can write in a garret.
Yeah, but a poet has to, either a poet's going to be able to sell their poetry, or they're going to have to figure out a way to make a living.
Or have an income.
So business is part of it all anyhow.
Well, okay.
It has to be. I mean, either you're being supported by somebody else to indulge your habit, whether it's poetry or painting or composing or sculpting, but it's certainly an actor is in a peculiar situation because they're not creating the material, so they're like asking for a handout, as it were. But certainly, you have to figure out a way to pay the rent at the same time that.
Well, that's true of everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody
that's what
has
I'm getting
to
at.
do that.
Yeah.
And that's a value that motivates a good deal of the society and the human activity and so forth. But there is also those who are interested in activity for its own sake in an artistic sense, which is a little bit different from the earning a living from what you do kind of aspect and view toward.
But you still have to. That doesn't answer the question
Van Gogh
about.
painted all those paintings, didn't make a penny.
Yeah, I know, but I think he would have liked to have made a penny.
He probably would have.
So that's the difference.
So it's down to human, whether it's human nature is involved along those lines, those survival lines. Evolution.
If I could sit home and write poetry and not worry about whether anybody bought it, that's okay.
Not
but
if you could write poetry, if you could make a film cooperatively with people that had none of the business considerations of getting the budget not up front or getting the cost revamped, but you could make it and you had unlimited ability to do all of the things you need to do to make a work of art, but you're not going to be making your living at it, what kind of a world would that be if maybe that's the one we're heading toward? If not for us, maybe for our grandchildren.
I just don't think they're separate. I think that certainly in the movie world, it's not my money. Well, that's a different story in this case. But generally, you're asking for people to give you probably millions of dollars, whether it's $1 million, $500,000, $5 million, $10 million. And you do have a responsibility to try and tell a story.
As in any investment.
Yeah. But the people who invest would like to get their money back.
Yeah.
If you're creating art independently as a composer, as I said before, or a painter, sculptor, or poet, or novelist, those people that I've met, they want to sell their wares, you know. It doesn't mean that they're less artistically inclined, but they do have a responsibility. Otherwise, how are they going to pay the rent, feed themselves, clothe themselves? You know, unless that you're getting somebody to pay for that, that's equally responsibility.
It's set up that way.
Yeah, but it isn't.
It isn't. No,
so
I know. Maybe it will be someday. Over the rainbow.
Way over the rainbow.
Or way over the rainbow.
Way over. Yeah.
Anyway, you've got this ongoing career, and you've had so many things. Maybe you could tick off a few of them. We're going to get to King of the Corner, but you know, you've really had you were a local hero.
Local hero.
Barbarians at the Gate.
Barbarians at the
Maybe
Gate.
Just go through a little bit of it.
Okay.
You've got a resume that goes like this, both film and television appearances.
Well, I've done, as I said, a lot of theater.
In the business,
I started doing theater here, Sexual Perversity in Chicago.
Right.
The Birthday Party, a play that Harold Pinter wrote. I did the 30th anniversary of that. A couple of Wendy Wasserstein plays.
Okay.
Another Mammoth play called The Old Neighborhood on Broadway with Patti LuPone, which was great.
Right.
And then I've done some television, not too much, but
Law and Order you did?
Well, some Law and Orders, The Sopranos I was on.
Sopranos you've been doing,
you mentioned Barbarians at the Gate.
That was a great and funny movie.
Concealed Enemies, which was about the Alger Hiss Whittaker Chambers case. That was on PBS.
Right.
And I think I did a series called Middle Ages. That was kind of fun for a while. and then a lot of film, Animal House and Local Hero, Crossing Delancey, Chilly Scenes of Winter, A Man in Love, A Shock to the System.
How many pieces have you done? You got how many
50
on your resume? 50
films?
50 films?
50, 40, 50.
That's a lot of work. You've been working
It doesn't
steady.
seem like a lot of work.
It doesn't seem like a lot of work?
No.
Fun? Do you enjoy
Oh, yeah,
you
I like what
enjoy
I
the
do.
process when you're at work? You enjoy
Very
it?
much.
It's not a chore.
No, well,
It's
let's put
always-
it this way.
yeah.
If you select carefully and have the luxury of doing the things that you really want to do.
Which comes with notoriety?
No, not necessarily.
You can pick more easily?
I think you pick all the time. If you begin your life that way, trying to be selective, I think I don't know, it's more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing a job in which it may be less aesthetically pleasing but financially beneficial, I can enjoy that job just as well, as long as I know why I'm taking the job. You know? And so about 5 years ago, it was just obvious that as you get older as an actor, certainly, the parts...
I don't think you know from getting older yet, Peter.
Me?
Me. I know from old.
Oh, I'm chasing you.
Well, we're both on that treadmill. I guess.
I'm heading in that direction.
The old trail up Mount Sisyphus.
You got it.
Yeah.
And I just realized that the reality was that the parts were becoming fewer and the competition was becoming greater.
Right.
And I needed to do something else. I've had a spoiled life as an actor.
Because you were so happily
just the kinds of jobs
fulfilled by what you were doing in your life like that.
That's what was spoiling.
Yeah.
The
you
parts
were
were great.
by the fact your life was so good.
It wasn't that my life was so good. I was within the world of show business. I was doing projects that really challenged me and fascinated me, and they were becoming fewer and far between.
Yeah, but doing that, doing things that challenge you and creatively and like that, is a wonderful position for a human being to be in, where you get a sense of real challenge and fulfillment by what you do, rather than it being some sort of
I agree.
Thanatopsis, Corey slave mentality that so many people, unfortunately, have to live with in the world.
And that's why I started.
You know what I mean?
But I took that, looking at my own situation, I felt like I was being boxed into a corner and wasn't...
More recently than you.
Yeah, well, starting about 10 years ago, it was becoming apparent, and 5 years ago, I did something about it, and I started by directing this short film I mentioned called By Courier, this O. Henry short story.
Because you were not happy that the phone wasn't ringing regularly enough with opportunity knocking. And
not only wasn't the phone ringing.
Was it a crisis that you confronted?
Well, yes, in a kind of way.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. It's pretty motivating force.
I think it has something
fear.
to do with I think it has. Yes, it's kind of a biggie, isn't it?
It gets your attention.
yeah, but it's also part of the film that you've done. We're going to talk about King at the Corner.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So it's coming out of your own personal experience or something.
Yeah, I think everything
and a
does.
sensitivity to the issues that are involved in it.
Yeah, but for me it was really a case of I just felt that I had to go back and look at this thing called directing movies.
Okay.
That
you had done the one already?
Well, I'd done one in college and pretty much put it away. So I made this effort 5 years ago.
Had you thought about directing all along, or had you been luxuriating in your acting and not thinking
No, I
about
thought about it.
You did.
I thought about it. I just didn't do anything about it.
I'm not an actor. If somebody's an actor, like they have senators, all of them want to be a president. Is it the same with actors? Do all the actors want to be a director, or what is that?
No.
You know what I mean? Or what's the relationship
Well, here's
between
the
the actor
truth.
and the director?
The truth is a little bit more complicated.
I'm sure that it is.
Here's the deal.
The real world.
Actors have been directing themselves since Thespis stepped out of the chorus.
Okay, I guess that's
So
true.
it's not such a big deal that actors would want to direct or even direct themselves.
Yeah.
Probably it is until the late 19th century that the concept of a director, because it was all theater managers.
That's right.
It was actors who ran their own companies.
Yeah, and theater is very different than film.
And probably a director was a frustrated actor who couldn't get a job, so he invented the idea of a director.
And they used to be, they wouldn't let him in the church. The church around the corner was for actors. In this polite society, they wouldn't let actors. They had a little church around the corner was for actors who had been shunned because they were like conjurers or something.
Well, they were probably right. They probably kept us out for good reason.
But anyway, that kind of thing.
So anyway, and even in the movies, actors have been directing themselves or directing anyway, whether it was Keaton or Chaplin or Fatty Arbuckle through Orson Welles or up to today, Clint Eastwood, Woody Allen. Brando took a shot a couple of times. Jack Nicholson tried a couple. Actors try it. They don't all end up staying doing it, but it crosses your mind.
Like being a conductor rather than the first violin or something?
No, I just think it's...
There's no analogy, maybe.
As an actor, you are in an infantilized position. You are waiting for somebody to give you something. So you're...
Property?
Not property.
No.
They don't give you property. I mean, unless you mean the property.
Or a thing comes along from a writer or something.
Yeah, you're waiting for somebody to hire you. And it's not like you're developing your own material, unless you form your own acting company, but you're still in need of somebody to say, okay, you're going to have this part. So that's what made me start to re-examine this stuff, because the good news was I was working a lot, and the bad news was that I was working a lot, because it was keeping me from looking at this very problematic issue that I had to wait for the phone to ring. So once I started with the short film, it opened up all these doors. It got into lots of festivals. It was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, nominated
and I thought
that was your first time out directing.
Well, you know, live action short, I guess, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Right,
but it got my attention. So through the short, I was sent this material that became this movie, King of the Corner, that I directed.
Some guy out of
Lincoln, Nebraska, right? Jerry Shapiro, who's a professor there, teaches a American Jewish literature course at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. As he told me, it's mostly filled with... He sent me a collection of short stories called Bad Jews and Other Stories, which I love the title of. And I thought if the material was half as funny as the book, maybe I found the feature material I was looking for. So I read the book on a flight back to Los Angeles where I was working, called him up the next day, and 2 years later we started shooting.
Ah, man, good. You started shooting, and the result is King of the Corner.
Right.
And that's the one, and that's one of the problems. We don't have enough time. We can talk for 16 hours easy because it's all interesting stuff. But we have a couple of clips we want to show. And you've now put together, you co-wrote, is that it? You directed,
co-wrote it with
you
Jerry.
You starred in it.
Right.
And did production. You don't want to call yourself producer?
Well, I'm not.
There was a producer who was cooperative or something?
No, a woman named Limor Sivan was the producer of the movie. And I mean, I functioned in some capacities in a producer role, but it's really, she really helped make the movie.
Okay, and you did it all in 20 days, if
20
I'm not
days.
mistaken. It was a relatively modest budget by Hollywood standards, that sort of thing.
$400,000 to shoot it in Super 16 millimeter, $150,000 or so to go through post-production and blow it up to 35 millimeter.
And that's where it is now.
Right.
And then there's a question, once you've got a film made, there's a question of distribution.
Right.
Had some problem when it came to distributing?
Well,
and you're now taking the film around and letting people know, and it had good critical acclaim.
Right,
it's very
done very
funny,
well.
It's well put together. It's your baby, and we should let people know about it.
Well, I looked for a traditional distribution deal, went to the usual suspects, and essentially what they said was, well, we like it, but we don't know how to market it, which meant maybe they were just being polite to me, but nobody was stepping up. Some people expressed some interest, but not in the way that I thought this movie really needed in terms of attention and being nurtured, really. So I didn't wait for the best deal. We had our world premiere in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Which is where the writer was from.
Right next to Pocatello, Idaho,
right
if I'm not
next
mistaken.
to it. That's right. And I've been traveling for 6 months.
Yeah, good for you.
I have another month to go.
Right.
I finished the tour the end of September in Seattle.
Right.
The movie's now in New York City at the Metro Theater on Broadway between 99th.
That's where I saw it last night. It was really good.
And 100th, thanks. And then the idea was, and we wanted to save New York and Los Angeles till later. That's why I started all over the country. The idea was I would use the tour to get as much name recognition for the film and the cast. I should mention the cast. It's Isabella Rossellini, Eli Wallach, Eric Bogosian, Dominic Chianese, Harris Yulin, Beverly D'Angelo, Rita Moreno, Frank Wood.
Cast,
yeah, it's a great company.
And Peter.
And me.
And Peter.
And Peter, yes.
Doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I thought that by getting the audience, by getting people's attention with the cast, and the name of the film, King of the Corner, it would help in the eventual sale for DVDs and videos.
That's coming out in October.
October 25th of 2005. It'll be all the stores that you can buy DVDs.
And that's one of the major dynamics of how...
Well, every film needs that.
Distribution is getting new and different creative ways distribution can happen now.
Well, as long as there's a place that people show movies, whether it's on a DVD or on a boat or a plane or
on
wherever,
a cable television station.
or a cable television station.
In this case, and so...
That's what whether it's a $500,000 film like mine or an $80 million film, all movies are interested in all of those places to sell films.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of different things, and one of the problems we don't have enough time, but we've got a couple of clips from the film.
Do you want to show one?
Yeah, why don't we show it now? We got one. Maybe you could set it up better for because I could. It was you, and you're doing a focus group
I'll tell you.
Or something. A couple, 3 minutes.
Basically,
we're going to try and get in.
The first scene is where you meet Leo, who runs focus groups. I play this character, Leo Spivak, and he runs focus groups, and this will give you an idea of the kinds of products that he sells.
That he's doing a focus group with. Okay, we're running that. We're talking now, and let's set that up and run that. Now, I guess it goes about 3 minutes or so, and it's really good, and then we'll come back. And Peter, thanks a lot. So run that up and send that first piece onto the screen now, then, please. Thank you.
I just don't see what you're driving at.
All right. It's very late at night. 1, 2 in the morning, you're home alone, the phone rings. What do, Louise? You answer it, right?
It's okay.
I'd be in bed. My husband would answer it. The phone's on his side.
What if he's not there?
Oh, yeah? Where is he?
He's dead.
He's not dead.
No. You're right. He's not dead. He's away. He's out of town on business. But you answer it, don't you? Louise, it might be one of your children.
My children wouldn't call that late. They're very considerate.
Lucky you. Of course, it might be somebody calling to see if anybody's home. Somebody, say, trying to break in.
I have caller ID.
Unfortunately, the lowlights to this world are unlisted. Helen, how about you?
I admit I've been
Crazy.
nervous.
Of course you'll be nervous. Who wouldn't be? Let's face it, you'd be terrified. Oh, my. Wonder who that could be. Say hello, Helen.
Hello. Hello? Oh, my goodness. Who's that? That doesn't sound like me.
You sound like Gregory Peck.
It is Gregory Peck. Sort of. Ladies, I'd like you to meet the Flaxman Voice Transformer Deluxe, the 620, our best seller. 5 men's registers from basso profundo to an Irish tenor, plus a special setting which gives you a very accurate impersonation of Gregory Peck's voice.
Hello. If you call this number again, I'll have you flogged in public.
Are they in stores?
Where can I buy one?
I've never seen anything like that.
How much does it cost?
Does it have to be Gregory Peck?
You'll be glad to know that the Flaxman Corporation wants each and every one of you to go home today with a Flaxman Voice Transformer.
Crazy idiot.
Yes, for free. And because of your cooperation here today, we're going to throw in the Flaxman Home Security Conversation Initiator for those unwanted intruders who've been undeterred by the Flaxman Voice Transformer, a worthy substitute for your typical run-of-the-mill alarm system.
Stanley, get in the door!
I'm busy!
Oh, for the love of mine!
Get it yourself, Stella!
Get it yourself! Get it yourself! You sound like a power!
Don't get me started!
I got it the last time!
Stella!
Shut up!
Hey, Leo, I'm in love.
That's so fun. I'm sorry I'm breaking up. That's really funny.
Well, it just gives the audience an idea. This guy's in a lot of trouble.
That thing could have come. I've seen scenes in life that are sort of like that.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
spontaneous happening like that, and sort of. I did a program. The guy said that they can take the voice and capture the voice of somebody through analog. I mean, through.
Yes, I
computer
think
things,
it's
and you
possible.
can put the words in. It'll come out in Charles Lawton's voice.
If you can imagine it, it can be done, I guess.
Imagine it, but that's so funny and well written. And you had a hand in writing it. You massaged this right from the beginning. Or
Well,
what?
Jerry sent
funny.
me.
That's really
he's
funny.
I think that's what's good about this writer. He certainly knows how to keep maintain the idea that humor and drama coexist at the same time. It's just the events that draw out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this was based on. The movie was based on 2 short stories from this collection. The first short story,
Bad Jews?
right? The first short story is called worst case scenario.
Oh, right.
And the last short story is called Bad Jews. And we put the two together.
Yeah.
And then in the course of working over 2 years, you know, I think that's largely, it's from his imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, the story characters are really from Jerry's imagination, and I just spent time helping him transfer the material from fiction to dramatic fiction, and it's a different world.
That's a bit new. And it was very well done. And even the people that are in there, they're actors, or they?
Oh no, that's it. I auditioned all the women who played the parts, and
they are actors, or are they just folk?
No, those are actors. These are professionals.
They're doing it. It was well
Steve
done.
Landesberg plays the voice of Gregory Peck, which I think he used to do as a stand-up routine for years.
Isn't that great?
But I had a great cast that you obviously meet along the way, and the people that I mentioned.
And you don't have it all full of car chases and music overlays, and it's very very creative in that way, and very challenging for people, and it's very funny. And
it's very
also
funny.
Got a great deal of pathos.
Yeah.
And the human condition and so forth. I congratulate you enormously.
Thank you very much. Well, I think it's the kind of story that I like to tell with the kinds of actors that I like to work with. And I told it in the manner that I found suitable to the story, and that interests me. And it's been an amazing adventure. Taking this around the country has taught me a lot.
Yeah, you've learned a lot
everybody.
from the audience, huh?
Well, the audience pretty much tells you what you've made. At least that's my experience.
Rorschach, huh?
Yeah, in a funny kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, part of creativity is conscious, and a large part of it is unconscious.
A lot of it is body perception stuff that we don't. Yeah, I know.
So when I go and talk to...
That's why the multimedia is capturing a lot of that in a way that literary tradition isn't able to get onto so well.
Well, I'm not so in love with
multisensorial.
Not necessarily.
No, okay.
It all depends on what is provocative to me in terms of getting my brain involved.
Right.
Brain. Well, I think thinking is fun, and I think that's what I'm looking for. It's not how loud, how frequent, how intermittent. I have to take each thing as it is. I'm not in love with one thing or the other.
Right. Thinking is an antithesis to a lot of. There's an anti-intellectual tradition abroad in the world and everything who posits thinking against feeling or something, or heart and that kind of thing.
Nah, I guess I don't know. I think people. I mean, essentially, it's rather traditional. People have been telling stories since there have been people. I mean, that's how we learn from one another.
That's where we learn throughout most
parents tell children's stories they learn how to grow up.
And we may be getting back to that. I mean, Mr. McLuhan used to talk about how the literary thing put us aside from that. Now we're getting back to storytelling, and it's around a campfire, and it's a different kind of perception that may be happening. But you said something interesting. You like the people you like working with. It must be like Robert Altman makes a film. He's got all kinds of people who want to be in the film no matter what, because he's just got a rep. Or a feeling, or a context, or a social concern, or something. It's the way it is in the business, too, I suppose, in the movies. People know who the people are that they really like working with. And
yes and no.
Or that kind of thing. Or it's a creative thing going on.
Sure, you learn.
Who you're going to associate with.
It's many things at the same time.
Yeah.
You're trying to get a good job. You want to be with a good cast, with a good director. You want a good script. You want a good experience. You want a good salary. I mean, it's never ending. Human beings are just, they can't be satiated. So, but I think that it's essentially, for me, instead of thinking and extrapolating and making it complicated, it's essentially storytelling. And that's what interests me, and that's what I want to do.
Well, you've done a wonderful job on this one, because this was funny, and I think Leo, and then he had some family, human problems coming up within his family and that sort of thing, one of which, we've got another set we want to
sure.
One of which is with his father, Eli Wallach, who is in a deteriorating state physically and so forth, and that's one of the themes of the film beyond just...
Well, it's a parent-child relationship. It's about work. It's about the pressure, at home, children growing up. It's all of those things. But certainly it's a father-son story to some degree, and Eli plays the father and I play the son.
The film is overall about how long?
About 92 minutes, I think.
92 minutes. We only show part of it here. We got another clip.
Oh, good, okay.
And this is of you talking along, and it's so casually and beautifully done, and you don't have it all laid over with music that leads you along everywhere. It's really interesting put together.
Thanks.
And you had the directorial kind of context for putting this in. And I congratulate you on that. It must have been fun.
It was a ball.
All right, good. So let's say that we got another little piece, another couple minutes, and it's It's
It's
Leo.
it's me
Leo
and Eli.
his dad,
yeah.
and he's in a wheelchair, and they're talking. And so let's run that little piece. Now I guess it runs another three
couple
minutes.
minutes, yeah, I think so.
I'm shrinking.
You're not shrinking.
Look at this shirt. It used to fit me.
Oh, get your new shirt.
Another 6 months, I'll be the size of a peanut.
How's Inez?
She's okay. She's a good sport. She comes to see me. She doesn't come every day like she used to.
Oh, she's busy, Pop.
How's my one and only granddaughter?
She's fine. She's got a boyfriend. He's almost as tall as Rachel.
I'm shrinking. She's growing.
I think that's the way it works, Dad.
I used to be 5'8".
It happens.
How does a human being just disappear?
You're not disappearing.
You're not the one who's shrinking. I want you to do something for me while you're out here. I want you to see somebody.
Who?
A fella named Marshak, Stan Marshak. He owns a funeral home on Broadway in Tempe.
Oh, hell.
I've made some arrangements with him. You go down there, you tell him you're my boy, and he'll take good care of you.
Dad.
I'm 85 years old, Leo. I'm not going to live forever. Leo?
Fine, I'll see him.
You're flying back tomorrow.
It's a crazy time at the office. Got me working on half a dozen accounts. Everybody's testing new products. There's a crisis every 15 seconds, and I'm training this new kid.
Who, your replacement?
What?
Nothing. You have to slow down, Leo.
If I slow down, they'll run me over.
I know what it's like to bust your ass. I wrote the book on hard work.
I know, Dad.
I hated that stinking job.
Dad?
I did it all for you, you know, every bit of it.
And I appreciated it.
No, you didn't.
There we go.
I've never heard any thank yous.
You're not just shrinking, you're deaf.
Marshak, Stan Marshak, on Broadway.
He's lonely, Leo. It's a shame you live so far away.
Oh, that's
the
good.
way you
That's
want
it.
it.
And I happen to know because I saw the film, and everyone should see the film, if I may suggest. But the kid, you're an understudy. That's one of the questions about the insecurity of the fact that you
my
might want to
protege.
take over your protege.
Yeah.
Might want to take over your position. It's really well put together. Could I ask you something?
Sure.
The thing came from an original writer, Lincoln, Nebraska. His name is
Jerry Shapiro.
Jerry Shapiro, God bless him, and everything good and everything like that. Now, you're watching that film clip. He gave a story. Did he give a concept, a story? Were the lines, the actual words that are being spoken, which are so well taken, was that part of the writing? Did you two write
It's
it?
largely
Can you
him.
get the dialogue down exactly?
It's largely him.
Okay.
You know, I mean, my
it's
influence.
really good. Yeah.
Well, that's what intrigued me about this
Yeah.
guy. I think he has a superb ear for dialogue
Right.
and how people talk, and that's what interested me in working with him. So my influence was in helping shape, I guess you'd say, the material for the screen, rather than, you know, when you're, it's a different experience of reading a book.
Absolutely.
So you have
Big
to,
transition,
it's a
yeah.
big difference.
Going on in
and then
human
different
consciousness.
scenes. I offered different scenes up, and I wrote some scenes myself with Jerry. So it was a true collaboration. It was
You wrote
huge
some
for
of
me.
the scenes from the basic property or concept or the idea that he presented,
Yeah.
and then you worked together on that.
But mostly it was, I mean, it's his stories, his, you know, look, we spent 2 years working on it, so it would evolve.
You spent 2 years, you
on the
shot it
material.
in 20 days.
Right.
You were leading up, casting and all that sort of thing for 2 years, getting the money ahead, getting that lined
and
up.
finishing the script.
Right. I did a program, if I may, on this literary
Sure.
thing. I did a program with a woman, Alexandria Fuller. I don't know if she's well named. Los Angeles Times, she had a book called Scribbling the Cat about Zimbabwe. Really beautiful, really written book. And we ended the program with her. The Los Angeles Times said she was one of the best 10 writers of the last decade, which is quite a kudo writing. She ended the book by saying she thought all writing should be cinematographic. That the writing process should be cinematographic, and like, so you got those lines. They could be those lines with.
But writing, if you're writing
with Eli, well,
right.
it could have been said on a dock in New York. It
Right.
could have been said somewhere,
Sure.
but you're getting it cinematographically in mind. And
Sure,
that's
it's
a different
pictures.
process than strictly literary.
Well, but
Or Michener has to take 8 pages to describe what you experience all at once if you're standing in a
Well, that's what a
headline.
writer can do. He can describe absolutely everything.
Yeah, but if you're seeing the picture,
it's different.
It's a cinematographic consciousness.
Right. Well, no, it's not so much that.
No.
It's just the audience is receiving the information
Differently, multisensorially.
Yeah, and if you're reading a book or short stories, you get to actually, if you want to turn the page back and read a passage, you can do that.
Yeah.
The amount of time it takes to watch a movie, let's say an hour and a half,
yeah,
maybe the average person reads, what, 25 pages in an hour and a half?
I guess probably.
Okay,
like
so
that.
it's a wildly different experience.
It is very different. It's less linear.
Well,
you know, I mean,
no, a movie progresses in a linear way.
Have linear,
you know,
yeah.
it's just it's more of an illusion, but it's a story. Think of it as a story.
It's back closer to reality because as you walk through the world, you're sensing everything multisensorily. You walk through the world, and you're not stringing everything out along linear perceptions of the wind is here, the thing is here, unless you're schizophrenic or something. You're not stringing.
Well, you have, like you said, there are things you can add to the movie experience that add levels that you're not going to get off of the page except what your imagination provides.
It's the beginning, maybe, of putting it. But you would have been writing that thing. You have a cinematographic context of thinking.
It's if you tell.
Did you know that he was going to be doing that scene, walking along like that? With it, you didn't.
Not until I.
How did it get to be from on the page? The idea, the dialogue, get to be where he was walking along like that? What's the process by which you come to that?
I'm not really sure in this case, but my memory is it was probably a scene that was taking place in a room. And I thought it would be fun to see them out walking together, except obviously
Leo. Did you do a take of it in the room?
No.
No,
it was always this.
Is this, what's the ratio on footage you shot to what's included in the film?
When you finish a film, you assemble all of the footage.
Yeah.
And you, at least in this case, I assembled it in the order in which the screenplay is written. It was about 120 pages.
Okay.
I had about an hour and 53 minutes of assembled footage of every single scene that I shot. And then I took out in the editing process about 20 minutes and was left with 93 minutes. But it's look, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I was
just
asking,
a storytelling.
Yeah, it's storytelling.
Yeah, when you go to the movies, you're having the experience. You're as good a judge as anybody else is of your own likes and dislikes. And it's just different when you're reading a book.
It is very different, and we're going from, Mr. McLuhan said we're going into an electronic, post-literate world. A lot of people are tied into those perceptions. Alfred Hitchcock once said, was it Alfred Hitchcock who once said movies are life with the boring parts taken out? I don't know if it was he or
modern filmmakers sometimes think the boring parts are just as interesting.
Oh, I see. So you get it all in. That's postmodern,
I guess.
But we're going. We've only had this. If you think about it, we're here for 200,000 years, and we've only had electricity for 100. We didn't have film. I mean, everything's telescoping, and now we're going to end up with holography. We're going to have molecular.
I'm just dealing with this stuff. Any more complicated, and I'll blow my brains out.
Well, stick with what you're doing because that was really good. I really enjoyed the film. One and all ought to see it.
Well, you know what? It's going to be I have a website, if I can mention this.
Yeah,
the website,
say it. What it is.
The website is kingofthecornerfilm.com.
Good.
And it'll have on it a trailer, reviews, interviews, and a calendar of where I'm going to be. We're talking in the end of August. I've got another month to go. I go Dallas, Boston, Washington, D.C. I finish in Seattle.
Where's Los Angeles?
Did I say? Los Angeles was last month.
Okay.
So after I'm done with...
And that's when the DVD will be released?
The DVD comes out on October 25th.
Okay.
And you can either buy it on our website or you can buy it in Blockbuster or... movie gallery or your local whatever.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be on Netflix and Comcast and wherever movies can be bought or rented. Just like a regular old $80 million movie. It'll be the same.
Yeah, and so you're thinking about the distribution and everything.
Absolutely.
And the traditional, if I may, the traditional avenues for distribution, which have been part of the movie business and so forth, have not been able to pick up on it in a way, so you're doing it in a sense. It's an independent film and it's being distributed.
Well, essentially,
the avenues open to you as an independent producer or director.
Here, This is the way it works.
This is important probably for a lot of product that's going to get out into the world.
This is just another way to do it.
Okay.
It would have been nice to find a distributor who could have spent some money and give us a national campaign.
Big ads on Times Square.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
Right.
Since I didn't get a traditional distributor, I've been distributing it myself.
Good for you, young
I'll be in
man.
27 cities by the time this is done.
Great.
I'm not going to make any money in the theaters because I'm not in enough theaters and I don't have much of a marketing budget. Each city is paying for itself to keep the costs down.
Okay.
But the conceit is that after all these 7 months of taking the film around, King of the Corner I'll give it some name recognition. The cast will have some name recognition.
Sure, word gets around.
And when this DVD thing happens, it won't be as if it's dumped into a vacuum. Plus there's foreign markets, cable markets, regular television, planes, boats, trains, canoes.
You've been an actor. You've been at canoes. They got
Son,
canoes. They got little things.
Based on your theory,
it's going to be the Dick Tracy. Remember
that's
Dick Tracy? We're just watching.
Based on your theory, canoes will have video cameras.
Canoes,
video
the whole thing. Yeah, well, that's good and everything. Now you've been acting most of your career, most of your life, and so forth. So these matters of the marketing, distribution, and so forth weren't immediately in front of you in terms of what you were doing with your life. This is a new kind of thing in terms of being concerned with the distribution and the business end of it.
Well, I didn't think
in a unique way that you probably weren't concerned with when you were doing your good acting role.
When I was
somebody else had responsibility
as an actor,
for.
people took care of me in terms of the distribution,
right?
Because I didn't have to do that.
Think about it.
But as a director, we wanted to, my partner and I made the movie. I directed the film. We did it in 20 days. We got everything ready. We went to film festivals, and I heard that the movie worked, which gave me the courage to do this.
From people who know?
No, the audiences.
Audiences in general.
Yeah, it was the audience that told me.
What about the critics and things?
Critics obviously can help, but I needed to hear if the movie worked in front of an audience. And after going to 10 film festivals and playing to hundreds of people at a time, I heard the response that gave me the courage to do this.
All right, good.
So now that I've gotten the film out all over the country, we will do the next thing. It would have been nice, like I said before, if we got a traditional deal, but in a funny kind of way, I think I'm lucky I didn't get distribution.
Are the way the deal's being made changing over time from when it was Mr. Thalberg and so forth and the big studios?
It's the same and it's different at the same time.
How close is Mr. Altman to the player of the business in Hollywood?
You mean how close was the movie?
Yeah.
As a piece,
it was so funny. But
it captured a certain aspect of show business. It's absurdity, absolutely.
It's an absurdity and some of the larger-than-life realities that are...
It's no different than any other profession, except there's a camera.
Okay.
No.
You don't think it's any different? All other businesses run this way and everything. Huh?
If you put a camera in any environment, those people would be just as loony as actors and people in show business
Just as loony as people in acting?
Yes. Imagine a group of dentists and, they would...
I don't think the dentists would be so funny.
I'm not saying they'd be funny. I'd say you put them on television or in the movies and pay them too much money, and they had, can you imagine the dentist convention and they walk down the red carpets? They'd behave just as foolishly.
I suppose that might be the case. I don't know. I mean, it's like the film and where it is I have this thing where I go through. I live in New York. I love New York City. I haven't come from Detroit. I like Detroit, but I like New York, and I love it. And I go around and I tell the guy, honest to God, and I love film and I like funny. I really like funny. And I walk around New York City and I see, Peter, Academy Award performances
by the average human being.
Joe Cushing Citizen, the cab driver, all incensed.
That's right.
It really is, I think if you could capture that, it would have been an Academy Award. Where's the cinematographer to capture it?
But that's why, that's what writers write about, and playwrights write about, and directors write about, for movies. The inspiration is the man in the street.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks a lot.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Sorry, my pleasure. Your pleasure. One and all are enthusiastically encouraged to go out and see the film, King of the Corner. Thanks a lot, Peter. Really good
pleasure.
talking
Thank
to
you.
Please tune in. We'll come back again tomorrow. That's it for now. Thanks again. One more time, Peter. Thanks a lot. We'll see you tomorrow. So,
I mean, what you were talking about before is those are the things that I find interesting.
Yeah, I find.
If you're, I don't think the movie is. That's what's interesting about this guy's writing. It's as if he was capturing what you just pointed out by the average person on the street.
Yeah.
People are funny. As Art Linkletter said, I guess.
And the reality is just, it's just so funny. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how people could. I don't understand how actors can go and know what lines they're going to say.
Well, that's the easy part.
It is?
Learning lines.